You are watching the Crownsmen Show. I'm your host, Jared Downey. We have got Enhanced Scanning on the show, and their founder and CEO, Forrest Sim. We're going to be covering a lot of their services they provide, swapping some stories. It's going to be a fun episode. Before we do that, we are doing our heavy industry tour all across the world. We've been to South Africa, Australia. We're going to be hitting the US, of course, Canada. We're doing several episodes here from live events. So if you are going to a trade show or you have a live event that you want us to be involved with, please let us know. We'd love to do a production on site with you. We got to give a shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Savinaw Equipment, they're shipping equipment all over the world. And Corporate Traveler, they are getting people all over the world. So those are our two travel sponsors helping us out on this heavy industry tour. Thank you to them. And with that, let's begin the interview. Forrest, welcome to the show. Great to have you on.
Jared, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
How long ago did you start enhanced scanning?
Enhanced scanning started about 4 years ago, actually almost exactly 4 years ago. Before that, I was in the industry already with for a few years with another company, but I started my own about 4 years ago.
And what sort of what encompasses the service, sort of the elevator pitch, if you will, when you're sort of just giving someone a scan of what you do?
I chose the name enhanced scanning very intentionally because while we started with doing two services that are very commonly paired in the industry, which are utility locating and concrete scanning, both using ground penetrating radar and other technologies. I saw even at the very outset that I wanted to be able to move beyond that and be able to just find and scan things that in some cases you can't see, things underground, and in other cases things above ground. Scanning seemed like an appropriate word, so we find stuff underground, whether that be whale fossils, whether that be pipes, whether it be rebar, post tension cables, um, all sorts of things. But we also scan things above ground with drone photogrammetry, terrestrial lidar.
Did you
We just find stuff for our customers.
do you have specific industries that you focus on, or is it sort of where the call is coming from? I mean, I've talked to you. You've been up in like Alaska, I think.
Yeah, been done some work in Alaska, not a ton, and done some work in the Midwest, and but we're based in Southern California, and so that's where the bulk of our work goes. But I mean, shoot, I'll go to Siberia if the project is right. So we have tools and we'll travel. But no, we mostly stick to Southern California for the bulk of our work, and we're mostly in the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, and construction. Um, and the practical side of this is that while you can do a lot of stuff with these tools that we have, it's most of the money, most of the work is in the construction industry,
Mm.
making sure that people don't, make the 5 o'clock news when they're sitting in an excavator. That'd be bad.
Do they? Is it part of? This is just the layman question that I have to ask a lot on this show, unfortunately for myself. Are
Sure.
people still trying to do projects without services like yours, or is it sort
So
of
there
mandatory in most cases now?
No, there are, well, whether it's mandatory or not has only a little bit to do with what people actually do,
Right, that's true.
as I'm sure you're well aware. So it is, in terms of utility locating, it's going to be it's mandatory in the U.S. to call 811, the local no or call before you dig. In other countries, it's called other things like dial before you dig
Hmm.
and stuff. But you're for public utilities, you have to call for any time that you're breaking ground, you've got to call 811. That's going to get you to your local call center where they're going to send out uh, the representatives for these various utilities: electrical, telecommunication, water, what have you. And they're going to come out and locate all the public utilities. Now, the public utilities, varying on the situation, that the utility stops being public either at the curb at the property line or at the
Mm.
meter. But um, but the point is, at some point the public utility stops, and from that point on, it's considered a private utility, and the free 811 locate will not cover
Uh,
that. So we are private utility locators. So we pick up where the 811 service leaves off, and we'll find just anything else that's in there. Active utilities. Sometimes there's abandoned and play stuff, just pipes left in the ground. So if they're just pipes left in the ground, it's not going to hurt anybody per se if you dig that up. But if you're a guy running an excavator and you're carefully digging through here, you're scraping down, and you see that you're about to hit a pipe, that's a stop work event. All of
right.
a sudden, everybody stops, figure out what's going on. What
Yeah.
is this pipe? It's a huge delay, huge expense, huge problem.
So is
So
that an industrial too, though? They don't know, you can't call a number to find where this piping is. Would that be industrial, residential, all of those applications?
OptiSize is a leading edge geophysical acquisition design and software company. OptiSize provides innovative seismic survey designs utilizing the latest field technology and optimizing for advanced processing and quantitative interpretation techniques. OptiSize's mission is to bring sustainable exploration solutions to energy development with their custom land footprint reduction technology, EcoSize. EcoSize enables operators to focus on reducing their environmental and greenhouse gas footprint while imaging all their subsurface targets and reducing costs. You can visit them at optisize.com to learn more. Dayquip specializes in the design and manufacturing of attachments for all makes and models of compact excavators, wheel loaders, crawl dozers, and articulated dump trucks. You can choose from any of their engineered attachments, or they can design and build to your specifications. All of their products can be shipped anywhere in North America, hassle-free. If you don't see it, just ask and they will build it. Check out their website, www.dayquip.com, or email them info@dayquip.com for sales, quotes, and support. L&H Industrial can custom engineer and build from the ground up any heavy equipment assembly or machine that you need for your operation. Their worldwide 24/7 field services network is on the job whenever you need heavy equipment troubleshooting, repairs, rebuilds, relocations, or replacements. And thanks to their specialized design and engineering and state-of-the-art manufacturing and repair services, they are a go-to international supplier for improved components and custom assemblies for heavy industrial machinery. Visit lnh.net to learn more.
yeah, so I mean, residential. So we can go through this. Residential is not. There's not a whole lot of work in that, because most of the utilities on a residence's property, most scenarios, they're all public utilities. You've got
Right.
the
Right.
electric meter on the side of your house, the gas meter on the side of your house. So it's all located. Now, if you've got an outbuilding in the back of your yard, or you've got a large property and different lines running around for watering the horses over here, or
Right.
different things, that's a different scenario. But most residences, there's not a lot of work for a private utility locator there. We do it on occasion. The bulk of the work is in commercial, for contractors, whether they're building residential structures, or they're putting in electric vehicle charging stations in a big box store parking lot, or what have you, running a new telecommunication. Maybe this business over here, the strip mall, needs a fiber internet,
Right.
and so they've got the telecommunication service contractor. They've got to take a drop from this pole over here, trench across the road, through the parking lot, around the corner, into the back alley, and into the panel. And we just have to make sure that in that whole path, they're not going to run into any surprises that are going to cause them delays and damages, things like that. And then in industrial, I mean, we've got oil and gas, or I've done a lot of work in refineries where they're just there, and those are situations where it's extremely imperative
Mm.
that nothing underground is hit. In fact, I went to a refinery. This was a little while ago. They called me up and they said, "Hey, we just had a hit. Uh, we had some contractors. They were saw cutting through. It was 3 inches of asphalt, and what the plan was is just to cut the asphalt out, and then they were just going to real carefully hand dig to lay some new conduit from building A to building B. And what ended up happening is that in this 3 inches of asphalt, they hit three 480 volt lines, that just they had 2 or 3 inches of asphalt just kind of smeared on top of them. And so they had this hit, and it was a huge problem. Obviously, it shut down power. It was a huge safety concern. But the point is, three 480 volt conduits were buried under 2 or 3 inches of asphalt. That's way outside of code, but it happens all the time. And so they called me up to kind of do a, how could we have avoided this? Could you have found it? And the answer wasn't easy. Yeah, we could have found that stuff for you. But even inside refineries where you'd think that they would have really important lines like 480 volt conduits, well mapped out, people know where they are. The fact of the matter is nobody knows where the stuff is oftentimes. Or another scenario, I had a refinery call me up and they said, hey, we've never had to have guys like you out here before, because we had a guy who worked here for 45 years and he just knew where everything was. And
so
I
scary.
I said, so what, did he retire this summer or something? No, he retired like 3 years ago, but he died this summer. And so we can't even call him in to ask him like, hey, Ray, where are these conduits here? Where does that fuel line run? And so they just had nobody. Another scenario on a different refinery. These guys.
There's a bit of a theme here.
Yeah, I asked them. I said, "So this is the first time I worked for them," and I asked them, "So what did you guys used to do before you started calling me?" And they said, "Oh, we did a thing called poke and hope." And I said, "What is that?" And they said, "Well, we come across a line. We dig real carefully. If we come across some pipe underground, we don't know what it is. Then we take a tiny little drill bit and we drill into that pipe. And if something starts coming up, we're ready and we plug it up real quick, and then we just kind of work real carefully around it and
so bad.
Don't break the line."
That would be that's like a sketch. That sounds like a sketch you'd see.
Exactly.
On TV.
This is something off of SNL.
Yeah.
And I said, "Dude, you're kidding me. This is not serious." He said, "No, we would do it." And so a few minutes later, I asked another guy on the crew, like, "Hey,
just leave the drill bit in. Just leave the drill bit. Yeah.
Does poke and hope mean anything to you?" He said, "Oh yeah, that's what we used to do. The management always got annoyed with us, but it was just so fast and easy." Right. They seriously did this inside of an oil refinery. So yeah, that was the long story. Short story is, yeah, it's needed in industrial too.
Okay. All right. There's a lot to unpack there. Okay, let's go specific then. On all of those three scenarios you're talking about, which technology? You're not scanning the pipes to see what is inside them, are you? Or is one of the
correct? That's correct. We just see we're looking for evidence of something that is that's not native, something that stands out from the background. The background being the in situ, the native, the existing soils.
Right.
Yeah.
So on all three of those scenarios, would you be using the ground penetrating radar in all those cases?
In all those cases, we could be using ground penetrating radar. So ground penetrating radar, some people think of it because they see it on like TV shows, finding amazing stuff and doing just frankly impossible things. Sometimes they think, oh man, ground penetrating radar, that's like sci-fi stuff, which it kind of is. And they could equate that to it being a silver bullet, which is not great for my industry. There's no silver bullet in any industry. And that's the same. That's the same holds true here. Ground penetrating radar is amazing. It is phenomenal. Just like a hammer, man. Whoever thought of a hammer? That's the best tool ever. Unless you need to drive a screw in,
right? And
then it's useless. So it's just like anything. It's got its great, amazing uses and its limitations. But we use it to be able to find pipes underground. We use it to be able to scan concrete and find post-tension cables or conduit. Or honeycombing, we can find defects in concrete also.
Oh, okay.
Voids.
You're doing that as well. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so we can do a lot of stuff with ground penetrating radar. It's a super versatile tool, and because of that, it's been developed a lot. The industry, manufacturers in the industry have done a lot to refine it very, very well for this use case and very, very well for this one. And so it's a great tool. Phenomenal. Not a silver bullet.
Where is it not applicable? What would be an example of where someone would think it would be, but it's not?
Cleario custom creates 3D and immersive experiences, presentations, and apps. Use this amazing technology to promote projects or products, communicate plans and outcomes to stakeholders, train your employees and customers, hold virtual meetings around the world with your project's data. For infrastructure, environmental, and industrial projects, Cleario's expertise converts your spatial data into holographic 3D scenes or full applications that tell your story in a compelling and intuitive way. It's time to join the metaverse for the real world. Learn more at cleario.studio. Introducing the SolarSet Fold. The new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com.
So ground penetrating radar is there's a misunderstanding. People think that it's like acoustic or something, that it's sonar that is looking for changes in density, which is not exactly true. With ground penetrating radar, we're looking for changes in dielectric values of the medium that we're scanning. And because Jared, do you feel comfortable in giving me a definition of what dielectric is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just give me 2 minutes.
Okay, cool. Well, we got to hurry here. So, no. We're just going to move on. Okay. So look, I'm not a geophysicist. I have a lot of experience in the industry, and I've tried really, really hard to educate myself. But I'm not a geophysicist or a physicist or any kind of ist. So what I can tell you is my definition for dielectric, dielectric value of a medium is just a measure of the way that electricity passes through a medium, anything, and that's something that's measurable. Right. There's air has a dielectric value, salt water has a dielectric value, wet clay, sandy soils, they all have different dielectric values. So what ground penetrating radar does is it sends an electromagnetic pulse down into the ground. So that electromagnetic wave is going to be propagating through this medium, be it concrete or dirt, whatever. And it's going to encounter something else that has a different dielectric value from the surrounding medium. So for example, a steel pipe in dirt, electricity passes through dirt very, very differently than it passes through a steel pipe. Mm-hmm. That change in dielectric value, once the electromagnetic pulse hits that dielectric contrast, it's going to create a reflection. It's going to go back up to the receiver on the antenna, and it's going to be resolved on a screen as, hey, there's something here. And you start scanning around a whole bunch more and kind of get a figure out that, oh, this is something linear. Oh, it's about this deep. Oh, it's maybe relatively this size-ish. And you start getting more and more information as you start refining just extracting more detail from what you see underground. So there are situations where the target you're looking for does not have a large contrast in dielectric value from the in situ soils. For example, plastic pipe and dirt. You could say, look, I'm vastly simplifying this, but I'm a simple guy, so it works. So the way that electricity passes through dirt, let's say, is very similar to the way that it's going to be passing through plastic pipe. So the contrast is not that great. So sometimes it's usually very, very difficult to be able to see plastic pipe. Now, if that plastic pipe is large, or if it's large and it's filled with water and you're in a very dry, like sandy soils, chances of seeing that plastic pipe are actually pretty good. Right. And it's very shallow. If you're looking for a 1-inch plastic pipe in heavily clayed, wet soils, and it's 5 feet deep, it's basically impossible to see that. You're not going to be able to see that type of a target. So what you can see underground, it depends on the depth, the soil conditions. Are they wet? Are they clayey? Are they sandy? Are they loamy? What have you? What's the size of that target, and what's it made out of? So there are a lot of material, a lot of variables there. So when people ask me how deep can you see, I do something just like I did. I go on a 5-minute diatribe explaining all about dielectric values, and somewhere in there they hang up. but sometimes they don't, and they pay us money.
And then those are the customers. Yeah, exactly.
So we're good.
Exactly.
That's how I filter out the bad customers if they can't sit through my lecture.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. Now, now with the plastic pipes, though, is there a strategy for finding them?
Sure. So, I mean, sometimes ground penetrating radar will work in those scenarios. If it's got, if it's a plastic water line, like a pressurized line, not like a sewer line or something like that, where there's no pressure in it, then we have other tools. We have like it's an acoustic locator that some people call it a thumper, but it'll create a pulsed wave of energy that goes through the water in the pipe. We have to connect it through to a hydrant or a spigot, someplace where we can turn a valve and have the water in that line, that water flow out. Then we hook a thing to it, turn it on, and we've got a couple of different frequencies we can set it to, and we go around and listen underground. We've got these acoustic or these noise canceling headphones, a little processing unit that we wear, and we can apply filters to it, filter out higher and lower frequencies than what we care about, and we can kind of dial in on the frequency of the sound that this pulse wave generator is creating. It's not a slam dunk, but our experience has been that 80% of the time, when no other tools will find it, about 80% of the time we can find these plastic water lines with this tool, which is great.
Yeah.
None of these tools are a slam dunk. That's maybe one of the most difficult things with doing utility locating, is that if you hired me to go and build frame a wall at your house, you would be nuts. But let's say that you did. I could guarantee you that wall would be just as many feet long and feet high as you want. And if it's not, I'll cut a little bit off. If I made it too long, I'll add some. If I made it too short, I can fix it. There are variables that are completely out of my control that will affect my ability to find pipes underground. I can spend a couple of hours trying to find exactly what you're looking for. And this is not usually the case, but every once in a while, we just come up empty-handed. And that's really quite rare. I'd say that happens like less than 5% of the time, that we just can't find anything and we aren't really able to do much there. It's very, very rare. Most of the time when that's the case, we'll figure that out before we even go on the job site, just based on what the customer is telling us. We know, like, okay, Mr. Customer, this is not an ideal situation. And sometimes we tell them, look, there's a chance this will work, but you got to understand, we might get out there, try everything, and we might not be able to find it, but we're still spending our labor. We're still mobilizing and demobilizing from the site. We're still going to have a bill to pay. You're going to be okay with that, Mr. Customer, right? And when they say yes, then we go out there. When they say no, we say, okay, well, it's nice chatting with you.
Yeah. Not much you can do. I want to do, what about the drones? I mean, you got one in the background.
Yeah, that's a Phantom 4 Pro version 2. Yeah.
I don't know my drones. Is that a good one?
It's let's see. This one has propellers and it's white and it has lights on it. So yeah, it's one of the good ones.
It's top line.
Top of the line.
What kind of scanning are you doing with the drones?
Well, so there's a lot that you can do with drones. One of the things that we can create is we can do an orthomosaic photo of a site, and that's, think of Google Earth, zoomed into your construction site, your property, what have you, your facility. Google Earth photos zoomed into that, but far, far higher resolution than what Google Earth can possibly achieve. And so it's extremely high resolution, and it's also current. I mean, Google Earth images, they're updated every so often, depends on where you're talking about. But so we can create very, very high resolution images of your property, whatever the site is that you want to get a picture of, and it'll be current to whenever you have us go out there. So what that means is that we offer this great service doing construction progression photos. So quite often we've got, you've got interested parties, either the investors in the property or some other party who's interested in the progression of a particular project, a high-rise residential development, or a theme park, a theme park attraction, or whatever it may be. What we do in those scenarios, we'll go out probably every couple of weeks is pretty common. We'll go out every couple of weeks and fly the exact same mission. We're flying this in this the same acreage, the same dimensions, um, and then we're just sending that off to the customer, so that every couple of weeks this customer in their report that they're giving back to the investors or whoever needs to know this stuff, they're including these progression photos in addition to just kind of as visual proof that, hey, all the numbers that I'm giving you are all accurate. Just look at page 5. That's where you've got the orthomosaic
Right.
construction progression photo, and you just do that along the entire progression of the photo or of the job, and you've got this visual record of how things progress. You also, on large projects, you also see things like, hey, I didn't know that the HVAC guys were staging all their ducting over there. Tomorrow I've got pumper trucks coming in to pump all this concrete, and they have to stage right there. That's exactly what they got to be. Hey, HVAC guys, we got to move this stuff.
Right.
I didn't know you had this here. On large sites, that can be a real issue because you're just crawling all over the site and you're not looking at every single inch of the site. But if you can just look at the whole thing and that picture is a day old, high resolution, you can really manage the flow, the workflows on your site quite well.
And then this
Other things with drones too, but that's one of the common things we can offer with drones there. It's pretty cool.
Now the laser side of it, the laser scanning, is that just essentially going into rooms and scanning the inside, or is that, or am I understanding that right? What your service is there?
Yeah, laser scanning is a pretty cool service where there are a lot of things that you can do, a lot of services you can provide with laser scanning technology. So laser scanning is an easy term for lidar. So there's terrestrial laser scanning, terrestrial lidar, and there's UAV or drone lidar. So you can stick a laser scanner suspend it from a drone and go through and collect just an amazing amount of information from a site by just flying it very, very quickly. You can do the same thing by mounting a different type of scanner on a tripod, and then going through rooms, going through a building, going around a site. So that's phenomenal. I mean, it's sending out hundreds of thousands or millions of laser pulses a second, finding the dimensions of a room. It's literally creating a digital twin of whatever space that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're getting that much information in terms of distance and color and size, it's taking color images at the same time. What you can do is you can take very, very precise measurements off of that, all without leaving your desk. A guy like me will go out and collect all that data. I process it. I'm going to do all of my work to make sure that everything is rendered correctly, registered all together, and then I give it to the customer. The customer can then use that to do design work off of, to pull dimensions. There's really a lot that can be done with it. So it's a pretty cool technology. You can also you can generate just a full 3D model and do a fly through of a space. We're doing some work for a school district, creating 3D models of the interior of the entire school. They're going to be doing that for a few different purposes. But yeah, laser scanning is a pretty cool thing that has a lot of applications in the construction world.
I think in one of our other conversations, Forrest, you were talking about taking the drones, I think with laser. I think that's what it was, into actual spaces and things like that, sort of as a safety, as a safety replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not here to give a definition of what a confined space is, but what we were talking about was a confined space. And it's a fairly self-explanatory term. Confined space, think of like a fuel storage tank on an oil refinery, or going down into a manhole for sewer, for an electrical vault, telecommunication vault, any of these spaces that are confined. Right. There's always concern in some scenarios, especially in the oil and gas industry. There can be concerns about highly toxic and even flammable gases being present there. But in any confined space, there's always concern about a lack of oxygen being in that space. So if you need to get in that space and do some inspection, do a repair, for any reason, get in there. There's just a whole slew of steps that you have to go through in order to enter a confined space, including getting confined space permits. Sometimes you have to get multiple confined space permits from multiple groups and create a confined space plan. And then you've got to have a tripod set up over the confined space and a trained individual who's going to be actually entering there. And then you've got to have other guys up on top of the outside of the confined space, in case that guy who goes in loses consciousness, gets hurt, is somehow in distress, so they can, winch him out with the harness and the cable that's on his back there.
Yeah.
And even if you go through all of that, you're still putting a person, and you're pumping fresh air into there. If there's a risk of there being toxic gases in there, harmful gases, then they've got to have supplemental oxygen. You're monitoring the air quality in there. It's just a whole mess. Contrast that with enhanced scanning, sending a drone down into the confined space. It's got a cage around it, so that it can come in contact with and even bump areas and not experience a crash. It's going to be doing a lidar scan, so it can actually map the inside of that confined space, which gives a lot of valuable information, as well as high resolution images showing, for example, cracks, water infiltration, things like that. In addition to doing a thermal scan, we're able to go in there with infrared camera and see if, when electrical conduits are about to fail, they are generating a lot more heat, and so they're going to be much higher than the ambient air temperature in that space. So we're able to, so that whoever needs to do the service on that conduit can proactively go in there and take care of it, rather than coming in an emergency and trying to fix what just, something that just failed, something that just blew. And this is all far less expensive, far quicker, and you're not endangering any person. There's no risk of a person getting hurt here because there's no person involved inside of that confined space.
And less paperwork.
So, and way less paperwork. That's maybe the biggest benefit.
You can't say that. You got to go to the safety.
Oh, yeah. No, the safety is the biggest. All right.
We were doing so good for us. No, but I still see those setups, with the tripod and the lowering people down and all that sort of stuff. Is that, how big of a part of your business is that? Are people still doing that, not realizing that service is literally might be right next door to them that you're providing?
Well, so what we're able to eliminate is or at least vastly reduce the number of times, because you still a drone can't do everything that a human can in terms of inspection,
right?
And sometimes you have to be able to move some conduits out of the way and look over there, and a drone can't do that, right? So there are scenarios when you have to, even in inspections cases, you have to send a human into that space, but you can take care of a lot of them through sending a robot, a drone, in there. So that takes care of a lot. A drone is not going to be able to fix a conduit. So any kind of service work is still going to be done by a human, but a lot of inspection work can be done without endangering human life.
Before I let you go, Forrest, I want to talk a little bit. I want to circle back to what I talked about at the beginning, was like your activity on LinkedIn, and and you've kind of got two different worlds there. You've got your drones and your scanners set up on one side, and then you've got cast iron and axes on the other side. That looks like a custom made knife too, or like a custom made. Is that a cleaver? Is that what that's called? Cleaver?
Yeah, cleaver. Yeah.
Clever. Wow.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that one from?
There's not much of a story behind that one.
It looks like there should be. It's got that handle thing.
Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, I need to make up a really good story about that. Oh yeah, no, actually, I remember now. My fourth great grandfather made that. I don't remember the whole story, but it had to do with him coming across the plains in a wagon, I think.
Right.
It was something along those lines.
That was the only tool he had left by the time he got here.
Yeah, it was the only thing. He used that to kill a buffalo, and that's the only way he fed his family. Yeah, it was somewhere along those lines. Yeah.
But going back to, you are very active on on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I think, are you you're starting a new show as well? You're going to start having some conversations similar to this, and sort of like
Yeah.
internally, and you got a lot going on. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're starting a live stream. A co-host and I, we're going to be starting this live stream doing talking about issues pertaining to the construction industry. We're still kind of figuring out the way that we're phrasing this, but we're kind of probably be focusing on kind of the business and the sales and the marketing in the construction industry. Just topics that are not maybe specifically dealt with a lot. And it's for this friend of mine and for me, the marketing and the sales, that they're big passions of ours. They always have been. And then she and I were both small business owners, so it just kind of makes sense. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that. We between her and me, we both have a lot of contacts in the industry with really interesting people, interesting backgrounds. So I think we could have a lot of really great stories that are interesting to listen to, but also that are very, very informative about, very helpful for small or larger companies in the construction industry to, I hope to be able to raise the bar a little bit in terms of how we're selling and marketing. I feel like in AEC, architecture, engineering, and construction, there we don't. I've got theories on why this is, but I feel like we don't do a great job of marketing and selling, and maybe that's simply because maybe a lot of us just don't have to, because shoot, people are going to build buildings. How are they going to do it? Well, they need an architect, they need an engineer, and they need somebody to construct it. So maybe we don't need to do all that much marketing and selling. But developing a brand, building that brand, maintaining that brand, those are all valuable things. And I'm not saying that nobody does this well,
right? Yeah.
But I think that they're valuable conversations to be had. And so we're going to be starting that live stream. And I'm very active on LinkedIn for the purpose of building my brand. Sure, but it's mostly the reason I really got into it is because I wanted a network. I wanted to network with other professionals around the world. I wanted to be able to have other people to bounce ideas off of. In fact, all the services that I have brought on board outside of ground penetrating radar, utility locating, concrete scanning, those are all services that I brought on board because I found just magnanimous people in the industry around the world, not just in the US or Canada, but around the world, who are just phenomenal in terms of their willingness, their ability to just collaborate. And by nature, I'm a very collaborative person. I believe that we are all better, that the tide rises all the boats in the dock, and or when the tide goes up, all the boats go up. I'm slaughtering that one. Anyway, boats are good, and so is water.
It's one of my funnest interviews, and I'm not even kidding.
Yeah. So I just think that it's so valuable to just work together. And I've tried really hard to return to kind of pay that forward I have a number of people who have reached out to me for what it's worth, for my opinions on this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
I'm very careful about how I give my opinions out on some things that I feel like I have business having an opinion on, then I'll share that opinion. But there are many things that I just don't, I simply don't have any business having a strong opinion on.
Yeah.
And so I'm very careful to not share an opinion on, if somebody asks me something about, I'm finding that simply because I talk a lot on LinkedIn, people ask me lots of questions, and some of them I am not qualified to answer. And I will readily tell them, like, dude, you should talk to somebody else. I'm just a dude.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. You put yourself out, and of course, people reach out. They go, "Oh, you at least have a camera pointed at you. You're a step ahead of me," And it's true. But I wanted to touch on your LinkedIn work because it's something that I really encourage people to be active on, and not just promoting themselves, but connecting with people, because it's just fun. You get to connect with people that. I mean, they just have these knowledge bases, and you think people, and I think it's almost romanticized how busy business people are. Like people will say to me about, oh, you must be busy. I go, I'm busy-ish. I mean, I'm not as busy as a guy
Yeah.
that's working off grid up on an oil field doing 14-hour days. I'm not that
Yeah.
busy. I'm in an
Yeah.
office. I can have a 10-minute conversation easily with you, to share advice. And a lot of people are available. If you want to chat with them, pick their brain, or if they want to, and you start to reciprocate that. I mean, and like you said, though, the key is all over the world. I mean, we've done shows out of Finland and, Ireland. These companies are just everywhere, and the innovation. And 20 years ago, you could not talk to those people.
No.
They were
No.
off the grid as far as you were concerned.
I made a post on LinkedIn fairly recently about this, where it was just a thank you post. It was just, hey, I want to say thanks to the people in the following places who have helped me just in the last week.
Wow.
It was just the last week, and I went through my calendar looking at all the okay, talk to this guy on this time, that guy on that time, and I looked at the emails I was passing around, and it was in the last week. It was something like 20 different states and countries around the world that who would help me tremendously. Not just had a quick phone call, but they helped me a lot. And I tried my best to return that, to be helping them also. But that's in 1 week.
Yeah.
Around 20 or something different locales.
Wow.
And it's just so much easier to collaborate. Yeah, and why not? And we're all busy, but let's be honest, it's not that impressive to be busy.
That's
what I was
getting at.
Hard. It's not that hard to be busy.
Mm-hmm.
I can find just about anything to take up my time with.
Yeah.
But it's really figuring out the things that are important to be busy about. I mean, when I was much earlier in my business development, my business growth here, before I had brought on my first employee, I was pretty busy at that time. I was working about 120 to 130 hours a week, just every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really busy. But I still had time for those, like you called them, those 10-minute conversations with somebody. And it was still important to do that, because people were still doing that for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's incumbent upon us to return the favor, to pay that forward.
And it keeps your brain sharp. When you talk to, you talk to a guy from Finland who knows this crazy drone technology. He claims that his drone is better than yours, and you get to have that conversation about it. It breaks you out of this cycle, especially if you're operating business. You can get into a pattern, and then the walls start to sort of close in, and you just kind of go down the track. And it's very difficult to expand once you get in that mindset. But that ability to keep, and I mean, I would say from people I see on LinkedIn, you're sort of top tier at it. That ability to keep drawing people in from all these different areas, you can't help but get better. I mean, I don't know how you could.
Well, and I think it's just so healthy. It's not comfortable. In fact, I made a post about this fairly recently too, about comfort and about the danger of comfort, and that I've tried to intentionally infuse things into my life, daily life, about that are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's been a while, maybe a month or two, since I've taken a warm shower. I take cold showers every single day, because I'm concerned about getting too comfortable.
Yeah.
About, at a time when, my business goes bankrupt tomorrow. We have no source of income. My wife and kids and I are just destitute. It will not be the first time that we've been uncomfortable, or that we prepared against that day. We have food and money and water set aside for emergencies and stuff. But we have such an obsession with comfort, and not getting outside of our box, not getting outside of our areas that we understand well, and collaborating, talking, communicating with other people around the world. As you said, you can't help but progress. You can't help but recognize that I'm not doing that thing that this guy is doing, but we have the same background, or I have more experience than him. Why is he doing this thing so much better than me? it's so healthy. It's essential. I think that
Yeah.
it's literally just built into the reptilian part of our brains. When we came out of the trees and started walking across the savannas of Africa, the guys who went on and procreated were the guys who literally got out of their comfort zones,
Just kept going.
and went on, progressed.
Yeah, and I loved how when you lean back, do that sort of that thought voice. It sort of made the mic sound really distant from you. That was masterful.
That was intentional.
Yeah, of course it was intentional. Yeah, it's and I'm glad you wanted to have this part of the discussion too, because I think it's really important for people. They watch our show, they'll connect with people like you to just sort of see what you can do on platforms like LinkedIn, because I use it all the time, and I really encourage people to do it. And yeah, take a cold shower. You'd be amazed at what that does to start your day. I do the opposite though. I start with the comfort shower, and then at the end I crank it over to cold.
Nice.
So it's maybe
I should
worse.
do that. Maybe I should start taking warm showers and just tell my wife, like, hey, at some point when I'm not going to expect it, just come in with a bucket of ice water and just dump it over the top. Just when I don't expect it.
I'm sure she won't
That's
mind.
what I should really do.
Yeah. Forrest, great to have you on the show. I've been looking forward to this discussion for quite a while, and it was as good as I hoped it was. So thank you very much. I hope it's not too long before you come back on.
Ditto. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Well, of course, we'll have a link to Forrest's LinkedIn and his website, Enhanced Scanning, and you can follow their page and everything like that. Check out what they do. Very interesting guy, very interesting company. Check them out. And thank you again to all our sponsors and our supporters, and to you, the audience. It's tons of fun doing these episodes, and we'll be doing plenty more. We'll see you on the next episode of The Crownsmen Show.